Meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Allen, Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the moment of silence to be led by the deputy clerk.
As we begin this meeting, let us pause for a 60-second moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or engage in other silent activity. Thank you.
The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would just join me and stand, and then I will begin the pledge, and you can just follow along with me. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is the formal adoption of the agenda. Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to take this opportunity to go ahead and remove item number 19. 19 is to accept and approve the proposed holiday schedule for 12-month employees. What I'd like to do is have some further discussion on this before bringing it back to the board, and our anticipation would be to bring it back under a regular item next time. So I would like to remove that item from the board agenda.
So with that, if we could, I would certainly entertain a motion with that exception.
I make a motion that we accept the agenda as with the modifications stated by Dr. Mendenhall.
Second.
We have a motion and second to formally adopt the agenda with the exception of item number 19. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. The next item under minutes are the minutes of the May 11th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. If there are questions, certainly I would entertain those.
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the May 11th, 2015 regular meeting minutes. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
hold on, I have to go back. I'm sorry, it's jumping. We'll have to
Okay.
just take votes.
All right. So we'll
Doc-
go ahead. Are you okay? Okay.
Yes. Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes, thank you. The next item, under Summary and Awards and Achievements, Mr. Ken Ellett.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce our head slow pitch softball coach, but before he comes up, I wanted to kind of give you a quick synopsis of some records that have been kind of broken for Broken Arrow. We're in the Frontier Valley Conference, which is 10 schools. It's Broken Arrow, Union, Jenks, Owasso, 10 of us all together in that conference. And as a conference, at the end of every year, we look at everybody's records and see how everybody did and who won what state championships, who were state runners-ups, and all those kinds of things. Well, this year, Broken Arrow tied Jenks for the most state championships and state runners-up with 8 apiece, which is a first for Broken Arrow schools. Then we went a step further and looked at it and compared it to the state. We're still working on that, but right now it looks like we will tie for the most in the state, which is a big thing for Broken Arrow. Part of the reason we were able to do that is because of teams and coaches like Coach King. Most people can't say that they are fortunate enough to win one state championship, but he's won 2 state championships in 1 year, and then a state runner-up besides. They were state runners-up in the fall in fast pitch softball, also academic state champions, and this year we're slow pitch state champions for the first time in the history of our school. At this time, I'd like to bring up Randall King.
Thank you. To the board, Dr. Mendenhall, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. Just a couple of highlights on the season. First of all, we were 32-4. We had 4 players that hit at least 20 home runs. We also hit 106 home runs as a team. We had 14 academic all-conference players. We had 1 academic all-state. To make academic all-state, you have to score 27 or above on the ACT. We had 3 all-staters and 1 alternate all-stater. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Just to highlight one thing throughout the year, first of all, I don't know if you know, but we were delayed several times going into the state tournament. We would come up, we would ride the bus down there, come back. Ride the bus down there, come back. We finally, on the 4th try, got to play. I knew we were ready to play when I walked back and told the girls we're finally going to get a play, and they were all pumped. They were ready to go. So I knew we had a pretty good chance of winning it then. Also, on the home runs, we had 1 girl that had an amazing feat. We played a doubleheader, and in that doubleheader, she hit 3 home runs in 3 consecutive at-bats the first game. The second game, she hit 3 more home runs in 3 consecutive at-bats, so 6 in a row in 1 day. And then the following day, the very first time up, she hit her 7th in a row, and that's Megan Rollo. So she had a great 7 at-bats. I'll let them introduce themselves. We'll start with the seniors.
Megan Rollo, I'm a senior. Candace Laney, I'm a senior. Anna Harris, I'm a senior. Brianna Moody, I'm a senior. Chelsea Bates, I'm Alexa, I'm a senior. I'm Ashley, and I'm a junior. That's what I'm doing, I'm a junior. Kinsey Bassett, junior. Hannah Little, I'm a freshman. Emily Kula, sophomore. Cameron T, sophomore. And freshman. Caitlin Matthews, freshman. Mary Collins, freshman. Keith Lawson, freshman. Sophomore.
As you can see, we had a pretty good blend, but the seniors are going to be very hard to replace. They did an unbelievable job, not only in fast pitch, but also in slow pitch. Again, we want to present the state championship trophy to you, and we appreciate all you do, allowing us to compete against top-level teams in the tournaments we go to. Thank you very much.
Way to go, Sloan. No, congratulations. Good job.
The next item on the agenda under employment, Dr. Mendenhall.
Well, before I start that, I tell you, it's Coach King and student athletes like that we're trying to aspire to have. So I really appreciate them and appreciate what they do. What's kind of interesting, and Mr. Ellett, you might be able to tell us this, but we just started slow pitch softball 3 years ago.
This is actually our
4th season. So we didn't even have slow pitch 5 years ago. So it's quite a feat to be able to, in our 4th season, win a state championship. So really great girls. In fact, I'm wondering if she'll stay back and play for our guys. I think that might help us. I did say it, and you need to tell the guys that, so that'll be good for them. Anybody who can hit 7 home runs in a day deserves all the credit in the world. So, well, let me kind of start off. Item number 7. You can see here is the employment section, and we've been very busy the last, I would say, the last 3 weeks. Right at the end of school, what we've tried to do really more than anything else is really make sure that we are placing people and placing administrators in the right fit. So what I'm going to try to do is all of this will make sense as I talk about it. I'm going to try to introduce people as we go. So if you'll be patient at the end, I'll probably kind of tie it up in a nice neat bow so everybody knows kind of how these movements took place. First, item number 7 is to offer employment to the new Childers principal. As you know, Ms. Burns has moved to the high school, and we moved her at the end of the year, and leaving a vacancy. That job has really, she has been there for the last 15 years. Before that, she was at Haskell Middle School. So Ms. Burns has been with us for a long time, but also been the principal at Childers. So what I would say is it was a very big job and a big position to fill. And so we actually interviewed 8 candidates. And tonight I'm going to recommend to you that we actually hire Ms. Stacy Replogle in that position. Stacy has served our district for 4 years as an assistant principal. She was an assistant principal at Haskell Middle School for 2 years, and then became an assistant principal at the high school for the past 2 years. Before coming to Broken Arrow, Stacy was a building principal at Jenks Public Schools, and also taught taught in Utah for a little while. She was interviewed by the committee. There was a committee of 8 people that actually did an interview, and at the end of the day, they sent finalists to me, and we've chosen Stacy Replogle. So tonight, my recommendation to you is to hire Ms. Stacy Replogle as the next principal at Childers Middle School.
Are there questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Ms. Stacy Replogle to serve as the principal at Ernest Childers Middle School with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item.
Ms. Replogle, would you please stand and do you have anybody with you that you might want to introduce?
I do. I have the 2 people that are always in my corner, my husband, Nikki, and my mom, Dr. Dampian.
Glad to have you.
Ms. Replogle, I apologize that I kind of jumped ahead. Sometimes I do that, and that I apologize to you.
And I'll probably do it to somebody tonight here just pretty quick, so a lot of you are nodding. Don't be nodding now. All right, item number 8. Item number 8 is discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to offer employment to serve as an assistant principal at the high school. Let me kind of tell you a couple of things that have occurred. We have just recently moved Miss Linda Ricks. Miss Linda Ricks was an assistant principal. She is moving over to the virtual education coordinator position. And then we also have Tammy Strickland. She's moving over to a testing coordinator position, which has really left 2 vacant spots at the high school. Knowing this, we got on that really quickly to make sure that we had candidates, to see what the candidate pool was like. And I'm pleased to tell you tonight that we're actually bringing a couple of people in from the outside that I'm very excited about. Tonight, I'm going to recommend Miss Lindsay Johnson. Lindsay has served as an assistant principal at Rogers High School in the Tulsa Public School District. She was an English teacher at Hale High School. Actually, I believe she graduated from there as well. And started her administrative career as an assistant principal at McLean. And I just wanted to hear the story on that. So that would be a tough assignment, I would think. Not real sure about McLean, but I would think that's a tough assignment. So Lindsay has a great deal of experience in special education, which is very much needed at the high school with as many students as we have there that are on IEPs. So she will help us out with that. After interviewing her, what I would say is that she's probably wise beyond her years. She has a very good disposition, and I'm really excited about her, and I feel like she'll be a perfect fit for our high school. So I'm going to recommend Miss Lindsay Johnson to you as the assistant principal at the high school.
Any comments, questions?
Make a motion to approve?
Second. We have a motion and second to offer employment to Miss Lindsay Johnson to serve as assistant principal at Broken Arrow High School with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, would you please stand? I believe you have a few people here with you tonight, so if you would try to introduce.
This is my husband, Chris Johnson. I have my son, Kate Johnson. My daughter is actually in home momentarily. She's 5. And one of my great friends, Miss Priscilla, was here with me as well. And because she's accompanied by her family, so I had a lot of people come out tonight.
That's great. We're glad to have you. The next position is number 9, and it's really basically, we're familiar with the individual, but it's actually to hire the other position as an assistant principal at the high school. Introducing to you tonight and making a recommendation to you tonight is Mr. Shannon Smith. Shannon was hired at semester, if you recall, to fill an assistant principal's position at Childers Middle School. We had a move, I think it was that we moved one of our assistant principals to one of the elementaries, and we were able to move Shannon Smith into that role. He moved here from South Carolina, where he was a teacher and administrator, teacher/administrator at a private school. Shannon taught at North Intermediate years ago, and then moved his family to South Carolina. Miss Burns has requested and felt like that the time that she spent with him was very valuable, and has requested that he be hired in this role. And after getting to know Mr. Smith and really working with him, I feel like that this is another perfect fit. So I'm making a recommendation tonight to you to hire Mr. Shannon Smith to be an assistant principal at the high school.
Any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval?
Second. We have a motion and second to offer employment to Mr. Shannon Smith to serve as the assistant principal at Broken Arrow High School with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, please stand. Do you have anybody with you tonight that you'd like to introduce? He and Mr. Gray work together a lot, so I have a feeling they have stories already to tell. Interesting story about Shannon. We interviewed him on Skype, and he was interviewing, and so we're talking back and forth, and I knew he's from South Carolina, and the location you were at, tell him where you were located. I said, do you know where Hilton Head is, or do you still know where Broken Arrow is? And he started laughing. He says, and he's the only guy that really got the joke, because I'm like, okay, Hilton Head to Broken Arrow, do you really know? And see, he laughed at my joke. He was hired. So it's been good to get to know Mr. Smith. He's done a great job at Childers, and feel like that his transition will be very much needed. So thank you very much. Okay, the next item is item number 10, and this is to hire an assistant principal at the Freshman Academy. This was one of those that was very interesting because we went through, there was a committee or a team of administrators that actually interviewed a pool of assistant principals. So going through that, I don't recall how many they interviewed, but it was quite a few. You guys recall, could you throw out a number? 24. So I would be numb. I interview like 3 or 4 and I can, I see shiny things and get off task, so it's hard for me to kind of just stay focused in 1 or 2 interviews, let alone 24. So really feel good about our next hire. We are making a recommendation tonight to hire Miss Michelle Baker. Michelle has served and has been a math teacher at Skiatook Public Schools for the past 13 years, which has really been her only teaching assignment. She has taught many of the upper level courses while sponsoring different groups on the high school campus. Michelle served as a kind of an administrative intern with Skiatook and really worked with a lot of their administrators and comes highly recommended from them. Grew up in Owasso, and so it's been one of those easy drives and transitions for her to get there. So Broken Arrow will be a little different for her, but we're excited about her coming here. Not only did she interview with the team, but she was shortlisted, and I had the opportunity to hire her. And she's one of those people that you, after the interview, you're like, okay, where has she been and why has she not been in my office before? And so actually Dr. Dunlop was the one that said at semester when we were looking for principals, she said, we need to go back and talk to this individual. So very highly recommended. Really feel good about Miss Baker and her fit as an assistant principal at the Freshman Academy. So my recommendation to you tonight is to hire Miss Michelle Baker as the assistant principal at the Freshman Academy.
Questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Miss Michelle Baker to serve as the assistant principal at Broken Arrow Freshman Academy, with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Miss Baker.
Brought my parents, Dr. Moon, and then my family, my husband David, and our kids, Ethan, he's 5, and Lily's 6. They'll be joining us down here on the other.
All right. Great story I'll have to tell you later, but I could mention it. She played the oboe in high school, and I said, did you always play the oboe? And she said, no, I played the flute first. And I thought, well, the oboe would be hard to do, See, I really get to know them when they're sitting on my couch. Chuck Perry, he just looks at me like, oh my gosh, he just asked that question. I said, why did you play the oboe? And she goes, well, they came and asked me to play the oboe. I'm like, isn't that little, she explained all about the oboe. So I know that she can play the oboe if we get in a pinch, okay? Okay, item number 11. See, that was better, guys. I'm getting better, aren't I?
Wouldn't go there.
Thank you very much. Item number 11 is to hire another assistant principal at the Freshman Academy. And if you recall, we've had a couple of we had a retirement. Mr. Steve Schwab actually retired. And then the second was we actually hired Beth Gilbert to be our principal at Sequoia. So it left 2 really assistant principal positions, one being that Ms. Baker will take one. The other is Miss Michelle Battle. Michelle Battle has served as a special education teacher. She was at North Intermediate. In this last year, she served as an administrative intern at the Alternative Academy. She was charged with coordination of the new discipline lab and was an administrator of the night school program. So she had a lot of hats that she was wearing and a lot of things that she was doing. So all of those things ran very smoothly. She was an intern last year and feel like that she's ready for that next step to be actually an assistant principal. at our freshman academy. So I come to you tonight to recommend Miss Michelle Battle as an assistant principal at the freshman academy.
If there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Ms. Michelle Bowdle to serve as the assistant principal at Broken Arrow Freshman Academy with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Miss Battle, is she here? Okay. I don't think she was able to make it tonight. Okay, let's move to the next item. Next item is number 12, assistant principal at Childers Middle School. And this is kind of one that we felt like as we reflected and really looked at, knowing that Mr. Smith was leaving Childers Middle School for the high school, we felt like that placing someone in that role was very, very important. Ms. Burns had been there, of course, 15 years. And also Dax Gray has been there. I think this was completing his second year. And then, of course, Shannon had been there only a semester. So we felt like that putting someone in there that actually had a little bit of experience was going to be huge, just to kind of give us a chance with Miss Replogle being there and being new for her to have some history. So tonight we're recommending that Mr. Curtis Green be moved to Childers Middle School to serve as an assistant principal. He has been at Oneida Ridge for the past 2 years. As many of you know, Curtis has been in the district for quite a while, serving in different administrative roles, and has done fantastic in all of those roles. Because of his wide array of experiences, we have asked him to move to Childers to provide some of the institutional knowledge that Ms. Replogle may need to know and have. Childers Middle School is the site of one of our special education programs, and he is outstanding with our special needs program. So we felt like it was a good fit, and so tonight I'm recommending to you that we move Curtis Green from Oneida Ridge to Childers Middle School.
If there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment, well, actually not offer employment, but to move Mr. Curtis Green to the assistant principal position at Ernest Childers Middle School. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Green. Thank you for your service. We do appreciate it, and we appreciate your, unyielding loyalty to the district. You've done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it very much. Our next item, number 13, hire an assistant principal at Oneida Ridge to replace Mr. Green. You can tell we've been busy. We are recommending tonight Mr. Stephen Lobaugh. Mr. Lobaugh has served as an assistant principal intern at Country Lane Intermediate this year. He started his career at Glenpool Public Schools as a teacher, and after that moved on to Barnesdall Public Schools, where he was a principal or an assistant principal there. Stephen did an outstanding job with the students and staff this past year, and after visiting with him, I felt like he was a great fit to be moved into the middle school ranks. Feel like that he'll do a really good job with our students, and so we felt good about moving him to Oneida Ridge. So tonight I'm recommending that we move Mr. Stephen Lobaugh from Country Lane Intermediate to Oneida Ridge Middle School as the assistant principal.
If there are no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Recommend approval?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Mr. Stephen Lobaugh to serve as the assistant principal at Oneida Ridge Middle School with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Miss Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobaugh, would you please stand? You have anybody with you tonight? Okay. Just Mr. Gray, right? Okay, last item for me tonight, item number 14. Item number 14 is actually to hire an assistant principal at Country Lane Intermediate, vacated by Mr. Stephen Lowball. We're actually recommending tonight Ms. Kristen Hennis to you to serve in that role. Kristen has served as a second grade teacher in Broken Arrow Public Schools for the past 4 years. She was at Country Lane Primary for a year and has served at Leisure Park Elementary for the past 3 years. Kristen has many years of overall teaching experience and brings a lot of what I would say the curriculum instructional side of the house to our team. So we're very excited about her knowledge base in that, and feel like that she will fill this role nicely. We're really excited about her future and believe she's a perfect fit for CLI. She's been here 4 years, knows a little bit about the district now, and feel very good about that. So tonight we would like to recommend Ms. Kristen Hennis to you as the assistant principal at Country Lane Intermediate.
If there are no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to offer employment to Ms. Kristen Hennis to serve as assistant principal at Country Lane Intermediate with such employment subject to a mutually acceptable and fully executed written contract of employment. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Hennis. I think you have some folks with you, some gentlemen.
do. This is my son Cole and my son Drew, and they are students at Leisure Park Elementary. If you have suggestions. And then my husband Josh.
Okay, we're glad to have you guys. One of them just got out of baseball, so we'll make sure that he can go eat a cookie or something here in a minute. Thank you very much. We're glad that all of you are a part of our team and appreciate all that you've done.
The next item on the agenda are the comments from the public. Seeing that there aren't any, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the general consent agenda items 16 through 36, with the exception of item number 19. I've not had any questions called to my attention to that extent, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the general consent agenda items 16 through 36, with the exception of item number 19. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item on the agenda is the Superintendent Board of Education Communications. Item number 37, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Madam President, this is to actually approve the appointment of Mr. Ted Cundiff as the member of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation. If you recall, we have two members that actually serve on the Economic Development Corporation, and we have two. The Chamber has two individuals, and so does the city of Broken Arrow. So all of us usually place on our agendas items where those names that are being brought to us to forward on to the Economic Development Corporation. So Mr. Cundiff is a Broken Arrow resident and CEO of AVB Bank, and I am recommending tonight that you approve Mr. Ted Cundiff as a member of the BA Economic Development Corporation.
And I would add that I have had the privilege of working with Mr. Cundiff on the EDC, and he is certainly very exceptional, and I concur that he's a name well suited to fill that position. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the appointment of Mr. Ted Cundiff as member of the Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation for a term beginning May 2015 and expiring May 2018. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, ma'am. This is a discussion and motion and vote to approve or disapprove the selections of the subcommittee structure. You know, the thing that has been so good about this is that we have all really seen a lot of the benefit of doing the subcommittee meetings. We have 4 of them. 2 of you each actually represent board members on each one. If you recall, we still do the minutes at each one of the subcommittees, and then they are sent out. This is typically done the week before the board meeting, and a lot of our questions and a lot of the things that may come up in board meetings actually come up in these meetings. We have set agendas, and what I like probably the most about it is it gives you a chance, an opportunity to get to know our staff. Our staff actually presents the information, so you hear it directly from them, and I feel like that's who you need to hear it from. So they have been good. We've had these for the last 5 years. This will be our 6th year, and every year we bring this back, so that gives you a chance to really look at the schedule, gives you a chance to look at the times and dates. So we have prepared that for you. Operations, kind of like, let me give you some general things here, and then we'll kind of have an open discussion about what you want to do in nominations. The operations services is held on Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock. It is chaired by Miss Michelle Bergwall, and of course there are 2 board members on that. Our next one is usually on Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m., and it is the instructional and also communications. The chairs of that is Dr. Dunlop and Shelley Holland Handy. The 2 of them actually go through the instructional side of the house, and of course we've had 2 board members serve on it. The next one we usually have is on a Thursday, and these are at 3:30 p.m., and they are with student services. Mr. Chuck Perry is the chairman of that committee, and has 2 board members that serve with him. And then the last one we have is on Friday mornings at 8 a.m., and this is chaired by Mr. Dwayne Thompson. He also has HR and finance that come in and actually spend time and present information, and there are 2 board members that help serve with him. So at this time, I'll try to answer any questions. I know that Ms. Stites and myself, actually a whole lot of Ms. Stites and a little bit of me, put a schedule together. We're trying to keep it consistent each month, so it's easier for all of us to remember. But we'll try to answer any of those questions that you might have.
Dr. Mendenhall, I would like to thank all of the leadership team, those individuals responsible for the subcommittees, because there's a lot of good information sharing during those subcommittee meetings. The other thing I would like to say is I certainly would like to thank you, Ms. Stites, for all the work that you do in trying to put these things together. But even with that, some of our discussion may be that the dates or the days may have to change depending on how it all falls out as it relates to our motions and seconds and those kinds of things as it relates to who serves on what committee. So I just wanted to make sure that even though you see the schedule the way that it is right now, that was just an attempt at getting some formality to that, but that doesn't mean it can't change. I would also say that there has, in the past, at least in past board meetings, when we've had discussion about this, there's been some interest in, changing subcommittees in which we serve on. So with that, though, I certainly would open it up for discussion or any motions that you would have relative to those of us that will serve on the different subcommittees.
I definitely would also like to take an opportunity to thank everyone involved in this as well too, because I can tell you, Dr. Mendenhall, this is probably, with my experience on the board and stuff, it has been so wonderful being able to get this information and have it where you can refer back to it, stay informed, and your team and everyone involved has done an incredible job to make it comfortable for us, and the presentations of the information has been just stellar. So thank you all very much. So in regards to my times, I know the early times work best for me. I know that 8 o'clock is definitely acceptable. I know we were doing some at 7:30, but 8 o'clock is definitely acceptable as well too. So if at all possible, I'd definitely like to stick to for my personal self and schedule, the 8 o'clock time frame works best for me, so.
So those two are really,
So really it leaves
business
operations
services
or
and operations.
business
Okay.
services for me.
And again, I think it's really important to talk about those areas that we're interested in. I know I've served on instruction and certainly am willing to serve on instruction again. And, you know, given my schedule, it's probably going to work out better as I look at the transition in maybe some of the meeting dates having to change a little bit. Tuesday, maybe, at least that's what we've done on business subcommittee. That one works for me as well. So with that said, though, certainly, I mean, there'll be other comments relative to what committees we might want to serve on.
Well, I think we're all good with mornings, and I see 3:30 in the afternoons here.
I'm best with mornings, and even 7:30, 7:45. I know it makes it difficult on these guys, and sometimes I'm walking in with Natalie just to get in the building at 7:30, but I prefer the mornings. And if possible, I would like to rotate maybe off the business services, only because Dwayne deserves someone that's more knowledgeable about finance than I am.
I do know that, you know, in the past, we had a concern with the 3:30. We moved it to 3:30, but if everybody seems to be, certainly that would be something that the leadership team would need to know, because it's probably going to work out much better for them to schedule it in the morning. So it sounds to me like we're in
Well,
consensus.
does it work better to schedule them in the morning before your day gets started and kind of,
Yeah.
I don't
Would
know.
you rather do it early, or would you rather be here till 5:30 or 6 in the evening?
You'd rather do it early.
I think
Me,
we would
I'm
rather
done
do it
by
early.
noon.
So, based on that, though, then it seems to me that all of the subcommittees then would meet in the morning. And
What about Steve Allen? I don't know his schedule. I
He'll
guess.
just take it. Just kidding.
No, I don't think,
He's
I mean,
typically
I've been on
morning.
committees with him, and 8 o'clock seems to be fine with him.
Yeah, I think 8 o'clock has always has worked well for him, so.
Okay. Okay.
So is that okay if we go ahead and just say we're gonna change all of them to 8 o'clock? Okay, that's great.
And
Mr.
keep the days that they're listed.
Well, actually, I think if we look at the Thursday, and I may be wrong, but somebody can correct me here. Student services, was that at 8 o'clock on Fridays, not Thursdays? So
It
that,
was Fridays, yes.
We
yeah,
did,
I think that might
the
need
business
to-
was at Thursdays in the past,
Yeah.
but
I think going back to the regular schedule, what they're used to probably would be best if we're going to, if no one has a problem with that.
I think
That
that
way
would
it would
be
be
good.
consistent.
I think
Okay,
that
so
would be
let's-
good to be consistent.
Would you tell,
So
make
bus-
sure operations, is 8
Tuesday.
o'clock on Tuesdays, is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, and then the next one is instruction,
Wednesday at 8.
Wednesday at 8 o'clock a.m.,
Student services was Friday.
okay? Then we'll
so
flip-flop that, we'll do that,
Friday at 8 a.m.
okay?
And then business finance services there is Thursday at 8 a.m.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll just stay on student services at Friday, that's the best for me.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
cool
what?
to go.
Okay.
Go ahead. Did you catch that?
No, I did
Terry?
not.
Student services.
He's going to be.
Mr. Major's going to be on student services.
Mhm.
Okay.
and I'd like to be taken off the business services. So I don't care if I go to another committee or if I'm the odd man out.
Well, why don't we switch Mr. Allen to the business services?
He was already on that, wasn't he?
No,
no.
it was Jerry
It
and
was
I.
myself and
Okay.
Teresa. So we'll switch Mr. Allen, and I'll stay on the business finance. I know that works well for me on Thursdays. So Mr. Allen and I will be on the business finance for Thursday at 8 a.m. Dr. Williamson. So-
I'd like to stay on instruction.
so you're
And
on
either, like I say, either I can be just on the one committee or take student services perhaps.
So that would put Mr. Majors and Dr. Williamson on student services.
Okay.
And then it would put
Mr.
Dr.
Allen?
Williamson on instruction as well on Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheryl.
And then I
Okay.
would be on instruction,
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Kelly?
and then I would be on, I think it,
Operations,
still on operations.
Okay.
and Mr. Allen on operations as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, I think we got them all.
All right.
So I would need a motion to that effect.
All right. I make a motion that we make a change to the subcommittees as following. On the instruction subcommittee, it will be Dr. Teresa Williamson and Cheryl Kelly. Student Services, it will be Dr. Teresa Williamson and Steve Majors. On Business Finance, or Business Services, excuse me, will be Steve Allen and Jerry Denton. On Operations Subcommittee, it'll be Steve Allen and Cheryl Kelly. And the proposed changes to Business Services attending on Thursday at 8 a.m. and Student Services Friday at 8 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the motion as stated by Mr. Denton. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson,
Yes.
Mr. Majors,
Yes.
Mr. Denton,
Yes.
Ms. Kelly.
Yes. Next item, Dr. Mendenhall.
Yes, Madam President, this is a discussion, motion, and vote to appoint 2 board members to attend the 2015 Best Practices trip that will be held in Boulder, Colorado. The Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce has scheduled this Best Practices trip for October 11th, 12th, and 13th in Boulder, Colorado. So in the past, we have attended these, and they have been very good to help us plan for the city and the things that have been going on and coordinate. So been very, very pleased with what we've been able to do on these trips, making sure that the best practices, we've brought back a lot of different things from these. So I would entertain any conversation or recommendation of individuals that usually, typically, so you know, I typically go to these. I have not even looked at my calendar to look at if I will be attending this year or not, but we'll be doing that soon. And we usually have sent Mr. Fry. Mark Fry has also served in this capacity as attendee, and I believe that Shelley Holland Handy has attended before, and so has Miss Burkwall. So it kind of depends on location, where we're going, what we're going to see, depending on who the staff is that attends. But we felt like it's been good to put this on here so everybody kind of knows who's attending.
Do we have a board meeting on the 12th?
Yes, we do have a board meeting on the 12th. And currently, right now, my understanding is that there's a state law that requires us to set our meeting dates for the next fiscal year after the holidays and everything are certainly more or less approved by the governor. And then, and Karen, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that has not taken place yet. So if this is approved, then that would be the next course of action. We would need to look at that meeting date and potentially, depending on the desire of the board, we would need to potentially change that date.
Ms. Kelly, excuse me, but this is already one of the board meetings that have already been approved for this
Thank
year.
you, Karen, I appreciate that. So we've had a number of conversations going on over the last week or so. And in saying that, though, this is something that we will have to deal with if the board determines to take the same course of action and approve this trip.
So are you saying we can or we can't move it?
No, we can move this.
Okay.
Yes, and then, in the future, we would need to address the October 12th meeting because we would have a number of people potentially gone.
Well, I'm gonna be in Dallas that weekend before, and I won't be back till that day, and I'm probably not gonna be, we need to move that meeting if we can.
Okay. Well, and it's probably just best anyway, especially because they can't move the best practices trip.
Right.
So I think it's probably going to be better for us as a board to go ahead and move that, because it's a good chance that 4 or 5 of us will be gone anyway. So.
So I know I have some business travel around that week, so it somewhat eliminates me from being able to attend that trip. Mrs. Kelly, do you know if
You're in.
Mr. Allen's schedule or anything of that?
You know,
nature?
I really don't know at this point whether his schedule would meet this. I think what we need to do is not necessarily determine who, just approve
Okay.
2 people to attend, and that would be determined at a later date. So
I think
it
that's
wouldn't
good.
necessarily need to be determined
Perfect.
tonight.
Well, I know I've gone to 2 or 3 of these already, and do appreciate going, and feel like it's a thing to do with the city, if nothing else, when we're bonding and meeting the city leaders. It's a good chance for us to sit down and talk about things that we don't get to visit about during the year. I work, but I'm happy to go, take off work, make that sacrifice.
I might add too, this trip has an education component, which is very important, higher ed and K through 12. So there'll be most likely a great deal of conversation around education as a whole. So certainly my calendar is.
That is the week of at least the short week for the teachers' meetings.
Right.
In the parent conference.
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday of that week, we're not meeting, correct? I mean, there's no school in session. I think it's that same week, so it'd be early in the week.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's also OU Texas weekend, so.
Go
That is a
Pokes.
priority, Mr. Majors. In Oklahoma, that is a priority.
Well,
So I would just entertain a motion to
Yeah,
approve
I
2 people to
definitely
go.
support
And if
that.
it is that we have to, okay, and if we don't, we send who can go.
all right. I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve up to 2 board members to attend the 2015 Best Practices trip hosted by the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce, scheduled for October 11th through 13th, 2015 in Boulder, Colorado. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item under Operations Services, Ms. Michelle Bergwall.
Good evening, Dr. Mendenhall, President Kelly, members of the board. I bring to you tonight our high school electronic access control. We're very excited about this as to add it to one of our summer projects, as we have tightened our processes across the district with access to our various campuses. The campus that still struggles with our keys is our high school campus, of course, because it is a very large campus with many buildings. And so we are proposing to add access control to all of the classroom buildings this summer, which is 4 buildings. I believe it's A, B, C, and D. And this would allow us to give teachers longer access in the evenings and the weekends, but still have those buildings locked down after school hours to help us with security. And so we're asking for your approval tonight of the bids for the high school electronic access control to York Electronics.
Ms. Bergwall, I am so excited about this because certainly you understand, being over operations and what have you, how important it is for our teaching staff, support employees to get in and out of the facilities. And certainly the senior high campus is rather unique. This is going to be received by staff members. If you haven't already heard, I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of compliments. And I know this is a start, but I just believe that it will be a continuation of how we're going to reach out and certainly serve our staff members a little bit differently as it relates to their entrances and exits when they're appropriate, and certainly addressing the time issue as well. So I just want to say thank you. This is very important.
Thank you. I agree, and I think it was important for us to get our new buildings online and troubleshoot our access control system. We've now identified what system works well for us, and now we're ready to add it to that campus, and I agree. I think it'll help our teachers on that campus out tremendously.
Yes. Any other questions or comments?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the installation of electronic access control at 4 locations on the Broken Arrow High School campus from the lowest responsible vendor, York Electronics, in the amount of $26,003 with payment from the 2009 bond fund. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Next item, Mr. Brian Daly.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. My first item is a motion to vote and approve the purchase of a database server for the new student management system, which is our new SunGuard eSchool Plus system that we will be implementing this year from vendor Two Trees Technologies in the amount of $35,604 with payment from the 2009 bond fund.
Are there questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of a database server for the new student management system from Two Trees Technologies in the amount of $35,604 with payment from the 2009 bond fund. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Yes, my next item is a motion to approve the purchase of district copiers, which would be 13 large volume copiers, 4 medium, 1 color, all in the amount of $116,007 from the lowest responsible vendor, Business World, out of Stillwater, with payment from 2009 bond fund.
Questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of district copiers, 13 large volume copiers, 4 medium volume copiers, and 1 color copier in the amount of $116,007 from the lowest responsible vendor. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item under instructional services, Mr. Mark Officer.
Good evening, President Kelly, members of the board, Dr. Mendenhall. This first item is regards to purchasing some site licenses from Renaissance Learning for, am I on the right one with states?
You're on the ACE.
You're on ACE
ACE is
legislation.
first. I apologize. The first item is the updated ACE report. You might remember last month we came and gave a preliminary ACE report regarding how we were progressing with our seniors. This PowerPoint shows the most updated numbers that we have as of actually Thursday evening. On that first slide, you'll see the total number of students we have in the district who have not yet completed ACE requirements at the various high school campuses. That second slide again shows the number of students who have completed ACE requirements in Algebra 1 and English 2, the two that are required, and then those that have, the number that has not completed those EOI requirements. The third is number of seniors who have completed 2 of the other options, and again the number who have not completed 2 additional. This next slide gets a little more specific about number of subjects that they have not yet met the ACE requirement in, and I just noticed on the key there at the bottom it should say not met ACE requirements. I apologize. Then that next slide are the ones that have met ACE requirements in the various subject areas. That next one is those students who have completed ACE requirements in some other manner besides the EOI tests, which could include a different type of test or a project or another proficiency score. Again, This one just gives a little bit more detail about number of students who have used each alternative to complete ACE requirements. And then the last slide is those that have met in specifically Algebra 1 and English 2, met the requirement in some other means besides the EOI. And then the last one, 137, is the number that have met it in other content areas. The counselors are calling each student individually and parent to make contact to ensure that we develop a plan for each of those kids. It's worth noting too that we've opened summer school up as an opportunity for those students to come to Centennial and get help on their projects, specific one-on-one attention, so they can try to complete those. I think also important is to know that teachers just finished grading this last round of projects this semester, and they're not just taking any average thing that's turned in. The students are being asked to do some real work and apply themselves and produce some quality stuff. So any questions?
Well, I do think that we are seeing significant improvement as it relates to making certain that we're on top of students who need the additional help. We're providing the services necessary so that we are improving our graduation rate. We are seeing that more of our students are successful in passing those exams.
We are, and that 2 new high school testing coordinators this year. Those are new positions that played a huge role in this process. So thank you for approving those. Mrs. Strickland, one of the assistants of the high school, who's now going to be a testing coordinator, has in her administrative role played a significant part in that process. Mrs. Brassfield, of course, has played a significant part in that process. So all of those ladies, I guess, coincidentally in this case, have done just a great job of tracking students and trying to find other ways for them to be successful. So,
any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Okay, the next item, I apologize, is for a contract with Renaissance Learning to purchase some licenses for each of our 5 middle schools as well as our freshman academy. This is really a direct result of those principals being very active and proactive this past few months to implement RTI practices in their sites and identify students who are struggling specifically with math in this case and provide intervention opportunities for them beginning really at 6th grade. So accelerated math ties well with STAR 360, and which is, as you know, you approved last month as our monitoring tool. So Mrs. Coates and her team at the Freshman Academy used this software the last 3 months of this school year with success and really enjoyed it. Got positive feedback from teachers as well as students. So we're excited about giving each site the opportunity to use it as well.
This is coming from the ACE funds too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve renewing Renaissance Learning licenses and adding licenses for math intervention for the Freshman Academy in all middle schools of Broken Arrow Public Schools. Total cost of the district is $11,003.50 and will be paid with the ACE funds. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Gina Koster.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I'm very excited to talk to you tonight about a discussion motion and ask for your vote to approve or disapprove the Memorandum of Understanding with OU and Broken Arrow Schools. There's no cost to the district, but this is an opportunity for OU to provide services to our students that are suspected with autism, ages 3 to 5.
Any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the Memorandum of Understanding between Broken Arrow Public Schools and OU Health Science Center. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, under Student Services, Dr. Rick Dale.
Ms. Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board, the item I have for you tonight is discussion, motion, and vote on a motion to approve or disapprove the Broken Arrow High School show choir students to attend the Milken University Show Choir Camp in Decatur, Illinois. Total cost per student is approximately $830 to be paid out of the choir student activity account.
If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Recommend approval.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the Broken Arrow High School show choir students to attend the Milken University Show Choir Camp in Decatur, Illinois. Total cost per student is approximately $830 and will be paid out of the choir activity account. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Allen? Oops, Mr. Denton?
Yes.
And Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Next item is not Mr. Blackburn, I don't believe, but
Good evening. Yes, Mr. Blackburn asked if I would present this item. The USDA is requiring all child nutrition employees to have training, approved training. And so we would like you to approve us to bring Jeff Joyner in for training for August 13th for all of Broken Arrow's child nutrition. And we will also have probably about 500 other child nutrition employees from other districts.
and this is this the first time where we're kind of collaborating with other districts? And is that a cost savings to all of the districts by doing so?
Yes. We're going to take out the contract, but then the other districts will pay their part in proportion to how many employees they bring.
They participate. That's good.
What's the training?
He trains in customer service, conflict management, that type of thing. We'll have all child nutrition employees in the morning and then administrative staff and cafeteria managers in the afternoon.
Other questions? I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and Jeff Joyner Training, LLC, providing 2 training sessions for the district's child nutrition department in service scheduled for August 13th, 2015. Total cost to the district is $5,650, and it will be paid with the child nutrition funds. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thanks, Ms. Goodacre. Mr. Ken Ella, the next item on the agenda.
Good evening. This contract is with the City of Broken Arrow in our school district, and it's for our cross-country team. They're always looking at trying to find new ways to exercise the kids and things that are good for them and changing up the program. And I think they've got 7 dates here where the City of Broken Arrow use the swimming pool. They're gracious enough to let us use it at no cost, but there is a contract involved, so I brought that here tonight to be approved.
Okay. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the agreement between Broken Arrow Public Schools and the City of Broken Arrow Parks and Recreation for the use of the Family Aquatic Center on Main Street by the Broken Arrow High School cross-country team. There is no cost to the district. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Next item, Ms. Luann Goodacre.
Comes that big, I can't move the page.
Tonight I want to bring to you a motion to approve the purchase of commodities from Asian Food Solutions Integrated, Land O'Lakes, Tyson, JTM, Advanced Pierre. We once again did a collaborative bid with several area schools, and we would bring that to you tonight.
Okay. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the purchase of commodity processed chicken from Asian Food Solutions in the amount of $95,937.10, beef from Integrated in the amount of $26,035.20, cheese from Land O'Lakes in the amount of $2,002.50, chicken from Tyson in the amount of $149,936.39, pork from JTM in the amount of $12,612.60, and beef from Advance Pierre in the amount of $37,160. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Yes, I bring for your approval tonight Tankersley Food Service as our prime vendor to provide food and paper for Broken Arrow Child Nutrition in the estimated amount of $1,325,709.75.
Okay, if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve Tankersley Food Service as the prime vendor to provide food and paper goods for all Broken Arrow Child Nutrition sites for the 2015-16 school year. Child Nutrition is estimating the cost for food and paper for the 2015-16 school year in the amount of $1,325,709.75. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Next item under Business Services, Ms. Kathy Medavalis.
Good evening. First item are the encumbrance reports. Request your approval for these encumbrance reports. These are from May 7th to June 4th, 2015, totaling $2,017,812.48.
Okay. Are there questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the encumbrance reports for all funds for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
The change order reports also represent change orders from May 7th through June 4th, 2015, and these reflect a decrease of $21,373.68.
Are there questions or comments on these?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the change order reports for general fund, cooperative fund, building fund, workers' compensation, bond funds, gift funds, and child nutrition fund for the 2014-15 fiscal year. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Ed Fager.
Good evening, President Kelly, Dr. Mendenhall, members of the board. I'm bringing three policies back tonight for a second reading and motion to approve or disapprove the revisions to these policies. First one is item number 53. It's board policy number 4090, which relates to drug testing of students participating in competitive physical activities. This policy was changed to add a provision that clarified the procedure used when students are selected for random testing and are unable or unwilling to provide a sample when required. It also clarifies and modifies an option for the substance abuse evaluation by a substance abuse professional, and has made that an optional thing by which they can shorten their suspension period. The recommendations for changes were reviewed by legal counsel and have been approved with only just minor modifications.
Mr. Fager, this is a second read, correct?
That's correct.
So we are, this is an action item this evening. So if there are questions relative to this, if not, I would entertain a motion to this.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 4090, drug testing of students participating in competitive physical activities in Section 4 students. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Okay, the next item is item number 54. It is Board Policy 4310, which is the student alcohol and drug use testing policy. And again, this is a related change. This policy is being amended to add the same provision that we had in the previous policy as it relates to students who are unable or unwilling to provide a sample. And again, this has been reviewed by legal counsel.
And this is a second read, so this is an action item. Are there any questions or comments?
Recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 4310, student alcohol and drug use testing in Section 4 students. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Next item is number 55, related to Board Policy 5370, which relates to testing employees and applicants for employment other than bus drivers with regard to the use of alcohol or illegal chemical substances. This is a second reading as well on this policy. And again, it's a similar provision that relates to employees who have been taken for cause testing and are unable or unwilling to produce a sample. And again, this has been reviewed by legal counsel and approved.
So,
Go ahead.
so Mr. Fager, it is for cause.
Or it can be for post-accident testing anytime that an
Okay.
employee is chosen.
Okay. That's kind of what I wanted to address there, so.
Yep.
Okay. Are there questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 5370, testing employees and applicants for employment, and in parentheses, other than bus drivers, with regard to the use of alcohol and illegal chemical substances in Section 5 employees. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, and Dr. Williamson, I know that you're anxious to get off the subcommittee, but we will miss your lively debates on our drug policies. So, when I come tonight on item number 56 is to keep our district function. We have deputy encumbrance clerk and deputy treasurers. The person that was named the deputy treasurer is accepted and is now working as the treasurer for Tulsa Technology Center. So we need to name another person. And so what we're proposing tonight is naming Natalie as the deputy treasurer, and then my administrative assistant, Leslie Chronister, as the deputy encumbrance clerk. And what their duties basically entail is, in the absence of those two individuals who are named as those functions, they would perform that task. If something was to happen, we'd be able to continue to operate without having a board meeting to be able to do that. So they will be. Natalie's currently is the deputy encumbrance clerk, and then so she'll just switch over to the deputy treasurer, and then my assistant will be the encumbrance clerk. They'll be bonded, and we'll be able to function in case something was to happen.
Okay. If there aren't any questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
The motion and second to approve naming Natalie Ena, deputy treasurer, and Leslie Chronister, deputy encumbrance clerk. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. Next item.
Okay, the next item relates to the bids or quotes for our general liability, auto insurance, educators liability, and property insurance. Before I get into that, in the back there hanging on are the three gentlemen. We have obviously Jim Beavers, and then we have Terry Cupp, and then State Representative Michael Rogers. I believe may be preemptive, but I think he's going to be joining that group. And so they're here tonight to answer any questions. Obviously, Kathy Medovelis works with them every day, and so on a variety of topics. So if you have specific questions that I can't answer, I'll refer to them. But basically what has happened this year, and you can see from your information, when we came back, OSIG, which is the company that we have been utilizing, came back with a overall reduction. There's a slight increases in our general liability and auto insurance and that sort of thing, but over the property insurance, there was a rate decrease, and so the overall premium of all the things involved would go from $952,497 that we paid last year to the $883,743 of this year, which is the total of all of those for a decrease of $68,754. It is also anticipated that into the second year there'll be also another rate decrease into next year, not nearly as large as this one. But if you look at also the sheet of just a summary, we also increased our overall property value. So not only were we able to increase our value, but decrease our premium. So we're recommending to stick with OSIG, and then Lexington is the insurance that provides for the property. You can see in there the coverage didn't change in relation to those things, and so we still have all the information on that. So if you have questions, I would try to answer them or refer to the experts.
Well, it's very exciting that there's a reduction, obviously, of $68,754. Anytime we get a reduction, that's money that can be used elsewhere. So that's greatly appreciated, and certainly all of the work that Ms. Metavallis, you do associated to this, we certainly appreciate that. Other than that, if there are other comments or questions, certainly I would extend that. Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the quotes for the district insurance for 2015-16 year from OSIG. General liability, $95,336. Auto liability, $127,105. Educators legal liability, $95,327. And from Lexington, property, $565,906. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Dwayne Thompson.
Okay, the last item I have relates to workers' compensation policy. The total premium would be $71,939. It is a slight increase of $2,806 over last year. Obviously, it's based on our salaries, compensation. So as those continue to increase, number of people we have increases, then it will the premium goes up. The one thing I did want to point out is we have selected previously the limit on one particular accident was $400,000. We've increased that to $450,000. We haven't had any loss to that point, in recent history. So you're just looking at a really catastrophic workers' comp injury that would, or potential death that would get to that dollar amount. So we feel fairly comfortable for that moving into the next year. Now, remember, we all are self-insured, and so as we make deposits into our own account to pay our premiums, so we can eventually have a pool of money in that fund as we progress that would also help with any of the like for instance the $50,000, the money in the fund would take care of that above and beyond what we would have done otherwise.
Any questions?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming, obviously, there's ongoing monitoring of the work comp.
Yeah, and again, Kathy and Jim, I think they have daily conversations about the status of workers' compensation. With the changes in the law over the last few years, they've been really diligently trying to close out old claims that have been hanging on for a period of time and moving us into the new system, as well as just trying to make determinations that are best for the district as it relates to how to end claims that are going on, whether that's a settlement or proceeding on to whatever. So they have a lot of conversations, probably more than they want to with some, but they do have a lot of conversations about how to proceed and what the status is, and updating each other on what they're doing to make sure that we can expedite those as soon as we possibly can.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about insurance, probably none, but is self-insured risky?
Well, what we're up for.
You probably told me it wasn't. And
what we're risking is basically the $450,000. All the other, that would only be a risk if that's above and beyond you would have the 450,000 for a catastrophic loss. If all the other losses added up to, we put 800,000 into that account annually. So it would only be if it went over the 800,000 if we had an issue on the run for the losses. The reason why you want to go self-insured, and basically you can only do it if you're a certain size, but you go self-insured, so if you're going with a company to cover everything, you're going to pay in a flat amount, and if you paid in $1 million and your losses were only 400,000, they just reap the 600,000. If in our case, if we put in 800,000, our loss is only 400,000, then the fund has 400,000. So that's the benefit of being self-insured. Is there some risk? Obviously there is, but you deal with that on the off case that would happen, and then you recover over the course of time from that. At the one time, back in the old days, we had close to $1 million in the workers' comp fund that had been able to establish over the course of time. The district had to use that for health insurance bailout at the time, but there was still a process that you could go through, and eventually we'll get back up to a significant amount in that fund.
Other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the quote from Safety National for the district's excess worker compensation policy for the 2015-16 school year for a premium of $71,939. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes. The next item is new business. Seeing that there is none, we'll move to the next item, which is to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Dr. Williamson? Mr. Majors?
Yes.
Mr. Denton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.